Hello, I'm Ben Parsons. This is a video abstract for my Literature Compass article, English Fabliau in the 15th and 16th centuries. And what this piece looks at is one of the less well-known elements of Chaucer's legacy, the sort of extensive group of texts which follow his lead in adapting the comic genre of the fabliaux into English. And these constitute a very important part of the general bloodstream of late medieval and early modern culture. They're quite widely read texts, they're quite numerous, and they're even quite influential. They kind of nibble their way into the works of Marlowe and Shakespeare, possibly, and are directly alluded to by Burton and Nash, amongst others. But despite this importance and the sort of length of the shadow they cast, it's quite easy to see why they have been overlooked in the past. They represent quite strongly David Lawton's memorable idea that 15th century literature gives way to nothing but dullness. They are, on the face of it at least, very kind of watered down versions of the French and Chaucerian genre. As is well known, the original fabliaux, the 13th century, 14th century, and the Chaucerian versions are very sort of gleefully amoral, rambunctious, sexually explicit, with plots revolving around trickery and cruelty and the exploitation of the naive. The English texts, however, tend to use the same ruses to defend rather than to disrupt orthodox morality and the status quo. So you get a text like The Right's Chaste Wife, for instance, which involves a woman trapping her suitors in a secret room and forcing them to work for their freedom, which is quite different from The Miller's Tale or a French text such as Les, where the central ruse is designed to facilitate adultery rather than to stop it. So in comparison to the French or Chaucerian examples, these English fabliaux I'm looking at do seem very conservative, but they are, I maintain throughout, boring for interesting reasons. Interesting because what they shed light on is the pressures that compelled them to modify the form they're using in the way they do. They shine a very sort of clear light on the general environment of the 15th century, a period in which vernacular culture had been targeted by anti-heresy legislation, of course. They also reveal specific anxieties about Chaucer himself as well, their kind of ultimate model in adapting these French texts, because he was writing in a period in which a lot of the concerns which later became sort of dubious and heretical were just part of sort of educated debate. It means that these texts, when they claim them as a model, they're actually also driven to revise aspects of his work and try and recuperate him. So a lot of the modifications they're making to the genre of the fabliaux are in fact direct modifications of Chaucer's work. And I trace these concerns in a number of specific texts throughout the article, mainly a piece like the Berrin Prologue, which is not only an imitation of Chaucer but an attempt to outdo him, allowing the pilgrims to arrive at Canterbury and recounting their sort of lively antics while they're there. A piece such as How the Ploughman Learned His Paternoster, which is a kind of inversion of the sort of outspoken peasant, the Wycliffite text made great use of. The Tale of the Basin, which is a kind of defence of the sort of supernatural arts of the clergy. And throughout this, what I kind of stress is what the texts highlight is what it means to reassert orthodox morality in the 15th century, as the texts cannot simply voice their values without confronting challenges to them. They then serve as a reminder that trying to uphold orthodoxy in the 15th century involved engaging with sort of countercurrents to that. Even a set of texts as deliberately playful, as non-polemical as these, are compelled, when they're trying to assert sort of conventional morality, they're compelled to address challenges to them. So pervasive have these proven. Well, and that's all I'm going to say on the matter, and I hope you enjoy reading the article. Thank you.